No other information can. So there wouldn't be no way in which different regions in the early universe could have come to the same temperature as each other unless for some unexplained reason they happen to start out with the same temperature. Why did the universe start out with so nearly the critical rate of expansion? So that's the next question. Combat sports does actually request some very good songs, and I'm absolutely gonna sing Kalihonaho. It's one of my favorite movies that I grew up with. So combat sports also like basically request songs from movies that I grew up with. So that's good as well, because if you ask me something that's super recent and I haven't seen it or watched it, nor do I know the song, then that would be hard. But combat sports is extremely good at knowing the songs, maybe because we are the I'm getting a notification, whatever. Maybe it's because we're peers or close age. You guys or he knows the same songs, which is excellent. Why did the universe start out with so nearly the critical rate of expansion? That's the other next question. That separates models that recollapse from those that go on expanding forever. That even now, 10,000 million years later, it is still expanding at nearly the critical rate. So expanding at nearly the critical rate, that's the other mystery. Because here's the clincher. Like listen to the sort of there's consequences for this rate of expansion. And if the rate of expansion was something else, the universe could have been quite different. If the rate of expansion 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller by even one part in 100,000 million, the universe would have recollapsed before it ever reached its present size. So remember, we talked about the rate of expansion, how you can have a rate of expansion that is small enough where the universe basically recollapses. You can have a rate of expansion that is just enough to avoid the recollapse, or you can have a rate of expansion that is quite high and basically you avoid recollapsing always. Like you can never really recollapse. So we actually looked at a graph for this a while ago, and this is kind of what's coming up again. And this expansion of being at the critical rate is quite interesting. Despite the fact that the universe is so universe. So question number 4. Despite the fact that the universe is so uniform and homogeneous on a large scale, it also contains those local irregularities or those local little overdensities that I was mentioning a little while ago, which is, of course, the stars and galaxies. Without the overdensities, without those sort of clumps of matter here and there, of course, we would not have galaxies and stars and us and things like that. So even though the universe is largely, as in on a large scale, very homogeneous, very isotropic, as in homogeneous, about the same everywhere. Isotropic means no matter which direction you look in, it's basically the same-ish. There's still, on a smaller scale, on a local-ish scale, of course, there's those irregularities. Can ours recollapse? That's a great question. We will get into it. These are thoughts to have developed from small difference. These are thoughts. So the local irregularities, such as stars and galaxies, are thought to have developed from small differences in the density of the early universe from one region to another. What was the origin of these density fluctuations? So the fact that at a local scale, there are fluctuations in the density, these fluctuations, basically fluctuations meaning over densities, having a little over density somewhere is sort of this fluctuation of the density, right? Very tiny fluctuations, because remember, we mentioned the smooth universe a lot when we talked about cosmology, and that's basically overall, for the most part, the universe is smooth. It's really a higher order effect that there are these little fluctuations in the density. Sometimes they're called high order perturbations. So higher order perturbations of the smooth universe. That's actually the sort of this topic formally. And those have led to the galaxies and the stars. But we have to probe and try to understand why there are even those fluctuations.